Hold on, you guys. Sorry, as soon as I hit that button, I had to cough right quick. Bear with me. I'm just going to do a quick recap of what's going on because so many different things are being thrown out here and thrown in, and people are so lost in the sauce. So I'm going to take it back, show a few clips of things, take us to where we are today, and try to get some clarity of what is actually being said, what's not being said, what has been said before. I'm going to try to walk it through as best as I can without having full clarity myself on some of this. But we're going to try to piece some of it together really quick. Hey, everybody. Hold on. Kyle just got home.
Hey, everybody.
Kyle just walked in the door, so everything's going on at once. I still kind of sound like a frog, so bear with me. I'm going to try to do this as best as I possibly can. My brain's working out like a quarter function, so bear with me. But I want to try to shed some light on this situation because a lot of people are very confused and people are misinterpreting things and running with bits and pieces. So I want to kind of throw some logic back into this whole discussion here, because at the baseline, this is about the dignity of a 15-year-old minor child, a missing minor who cannot consent. Let's establish that right now. Children cannot consent, especially a child that is missing cannot consent. So while all these discussions continue to happen about this missing child, his dignity is something that is lacking for most of the adults that are discussing this child's situation. And that probably to me is the most disturbing thing at baseline. On top of the people involved in these situations just keep, well, I don't know. Well, it's no big deal. Well, this and that and it's, I'm over it. I'm fucking over it. I'm over everybody. Before you come in here saying, you just don't like Clue. No, I don't. I surely fucking don't. I don't like racists, period. And I also don't like people who use salacious rumors and fodder about a missing child for content without being transparent and straightforward on it. I don't. Nope. Sorry. It is what it is. Have a problem with it? I don't care. I frankly don't care anymore, because at the end of this, there is a missing child here who nobody is giving a shit about his dignity and his name in all of this. And that disgusts me. Sit with who you want, like who you want, believe what you want. But how is any of this helping find Sebastian? It's not. It's not. Sebastian was lost before Sebastian went missing in Sebastian's own story. Let me say that again. Sebastian was lost before he went missing in his own story. Take that how you will. I said what I said. Exploitation can happen by the very people that claim to love this person and love this person. And if you have a problem with me saying what I think, probably not the channel to tune into today, because I've just frankly had enough. This is a missing teenager who deserves dignity and respect, and laws have to change to protect the victim. Sebastian is a victim. I have spent so much time worried about the narratives being painted, and all I'm seeing is more games, and I'm disgusted. This has turned into a real life game of Clue for a lot of people. Meanwhile, teenagers going through issues is not fodder for YouTube content. And the fact that I even have to come out here and put some facts on this stuff because adults won't just take accountability of this is why we did this. This is what we're doing. This is why. It's pretty fucking sad. So I'm going to take it back a step for a moment. I'm going to take you back to, I played Clue's live stream, a bit of it from Saturday night. This all started with Clue opening up a discussion about emails. I'm going to take you to Stephen Crabtree's from yesterday once again. And I am going to walk you through what Stephen Crabtree says about these emails and why they were put out here. It's a little confusing. There's still a lot of him and Han, but I want you to pay close attention. I'm going to leave the comments on the screen because I want you to pay close attention to Elevated Truth in the comment section. I got to give a shout out where shout outs due. Elevated Truth pushed it back a little bit, and I'm impressed by that. So let's go. Oh, Mike. Yeah, they do. Okay, so this is from Stephen Crabtree. We're going to start about the 35-minute mark in.
I just have to I think in Sebastian's case, though, it's just if he's outdoorsy, he loves nature. I think Truth said something that actually caught me a little bit too. Man, he could have walked the path over there to that pond several times. He liked being outside. If his mom wasn't home that day, guess what he did? Maybe he walked over there several times. That's something he liked to do. I thought that was a really good example of, like, because if he's getting under the car and his mom's not home, mind you, there's no cameras at his house to show he's leaving, then hell, he could have been wearing a path out going over there to go see the ponds and stuff. I don't know, but I thought it was a good one. Both of us. Who put the emails out and why now? I may have missed this person. So Heather.
So somebody asked him flat out. Let me make sure. I'll put it on slow speed so there's no confusion. Somebody asked him flat out, who put the emails out and why now?
If I'm not mistaken, Clue we come on last night. So while we were, I'll tell you this, and this is just verbatim out. It was told that this was information, okay, talk about, because it was information that we were trying to figure out and understand.
This was information. Let me back that up one more time so you can hear exactly how he phrases that.
Clue we come on last night. So while we were, I'll tell you this, and this is just verbatim out. It was told that this was information, okay, talk about, because it
was told that this was information to talk about.
It was information that we were trying to figure out and understand.
Information that they were trying to figure out and understand.
We were reenacting and redoing all the lights and everything that's been going on with the flashlight video per se, whatever, with the trash trucks. And
I don't understand how the lights has anything to do with these emails, but consider me stupid per usual.
And when we went to go over there, Chris and Katie and them they have helped in helping with trying to figure out this light situation. The conversation was brought up, and then it was showed to us the email that Seth was communicating with them back and forth on about the schools. And I think
so it was shown to them by Chris and Katie. There's no discrepancy here. He's not stay calm, carry on. He's not, if you're asking me. He has been a source of misinformation. So he started out on Seth's team alongside Tony, pushed off misinformation that supposedly came directly from Sumner County, had to eat crow, apologize for that. He has done quite a few things, in my opinion, that are very content driven versus factual driven. He's not a credible source, in my opinion, or a knowledgeable source, but he's a local and has direct access to them, is about all I can tell you. That's it. Yeah, delicate titanium. Same.
We were all left sitting there like, what the hell did we just hear? Like,
I don't know why anybody, like, this is so, like, shocking to people. Okay, we knew right off the jump, let's just take this back and, like, put some logic back into this. People are acting, and he's acting like it's so shocking that they were having communication about finding resources. We were told by all three of them that he was having some difficulties and some behaviors. Seth said, and I'm going to pull that up and show you. Seth said, let me just do it right now. Hold on. Let's just go here. This is from the lab on March 20th, 2024. Here you go.
I mean, so this was just a mutually agreed thing, and he was aware that it was happening. I mean, did he talk about it a lot?
Did you hear the lab say this was a mutually agreed thing? We knew that they were communicating, Seth, Chris, and Katie, that they were working together to find options for Sebastian. We knew that. We've known that all along. So why these emails are so salacious and stunning to anybody is beyond me. I don't know where the logic went.
A lot with you?
Well, you know how Chris said, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Hindsight's 2020. He was supposed to come live with me last year,
Oh, okay.
but I gave my son another chance to straighten his behavior up and actually apply himself at school, which he is fully capable of.
He gave him another chance to straighten his behavior up. Again, why are these emails shocking?
But and he's straightened up some, but he's still coming. He's already registered for school up here.
Oh, okay.
I want him here. He wants to be here. It's
Could that have any? I mean, could this have any bearing on him going missing? I mean, is it possible that he wanted to be with you, so he ran away and got lost, possibly?
see.
Or could he have overheard the discussions about being put in a facility and decided, I'm done with all you adults. I'm checking out. That's more likely, in my opinion. But hey, we don't know what we don't know, right? But I don't know why people are so stunned and shocked by the fact that they were all communicating about trying to figure out options for Sebastian. Now, the list, I'm going to be transparent as fuck. You guys know how I feel about this stuff, and I'm not going to sugarcoat shit right now. They named, and I'm going to show you a clip from last night from Mr. and Mr. Z's when we get into that part. And he goes on to name the facilities that supposedly they were looking at. I'm going to tell you a few of my concerns. First and foremost, these are not inpatient facilities for children with autism. These are boys' ranches. These are behavioral modification boys' ranches. Most of them are private pay facilities, which means to me that it wasn't because of autism or that diagnosis that he was being considered to go to these. That is my opinion on just off of the types of facilities and the dives I've done into them. Because a lot of times, if they are due to medical need, necessity, insurance will cover some of these residential type facilities. And that's not what these are. That's not what these are. I was actually stunned to hear the ones that were being discussed. If I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm very disturbed by it. There's a lot we don't know, but anywho.
Like, that's legit. And when they showed it to us, it was like, oh, that's legit. Okay. So I think Clue, naturally being a person that, she asks questions. She's just very,
I do not believe that he is in any of these facilities. Truly, absolutely do not, because most of them are licensed. Yes, there's a few offshoots that are not licensed, but I have a whole I could give you a whole breakdown on the troubled teen industry and some of these ranches and stuff. I have personal experience with a lot of these places, and I don't have very high opinions of them.
Investigative herself. It was a thing that I think needed to come out. I don't know. I can't make that excuse of why the timing was good. I don't know. I don't think even Clue knows why this was said to come out. I don't know. It's very confusing. It's left me it's left me very irritated. My problem is though, is let's just be
Elevated Truth in the comment section says, so are you saying you have not seen the email personally, Stephen?
real for a moment. When you think about the email in itself, seeing it in person, like you hear it all around. But then when you're sitting there and see it for yourself and realize this is legit, like what like the amount of confusion that just blows through your brain. It's like, what? Like what? Wait a minute. There's all three of y'all are involved in like with talking about this school. Like why? I just don't understand. I think that's the problem I'm having with is like, was it that serious? Like,
Obviously. I mean, obviously, I don't know why people are stunned by this. I don't know where people's logic has been all along. He was obviously struggling.
behavioral issues, like it kind of led me to more problems in retrospect of talking
Fucking
about
insane.
who was Sebastian, I guess. And I like to think, man, he was just your average 15-year-old kid that had behavioral issues, and maybe some a little bit worse than others. But
Elevated Truth. This is where I said that shout out to him. Everybody knows why it came out. It's not confusing at all. Respectfully, it was released for a very specific purpose. Let's don't act stupid. Let's be real, in my opinion. Respect for that, for sure, because all this him hawing around. Tell us exactly why they want this to be discussed. Be transparent. Be upfront. Don't him haw around about this. This is dignity of a 15-year-old child. And shouldn't even be discussed. Like, there's nothing shocking here. Great. I think it's wonderful that the parents were in discussions and talks and all working together to find options. And
I don't know, man. Me as a parent, I will tell you, I could not handle my son getting sent off anywhere. I couldn't do that, man. It would drive me nuts. I'd worry about him too much. It would freak me out. And I think that's maybe what we got to look at, because at that roundabout, Seth was given a year to get his shit together, because that was literally what was told. That, hey, screw the schools. We're not going to go with the schools. We're going to give you an opportunity as the dad. We're going to give you a fair shot at this. You have all these rules that you need to have in place, like not rules as in you need to do this. It was just think like his care set up, all of his stuff moved, everything needed to be in place so that Sebastian could transition at his home without any issues.
And that takes everybody, every willing participant involved in the child's life, to be a willing participant and do their part. I'm sorry, it's not just on one person.
Well,
I don't
guess what happens? He had that whole year to do so. Well, when you do all that, you come into that whole year. Well, all of a sudden, guess what's now laying down, right? He doesn't have anything done.
Yes, he said Seth was given a year.
Now he's got to enroll in school. First day of enrollment's there. Katie said, look, hey, you need to get this done. You did not. He's going to beach. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. And so I don't know whatever happens after that, right? I don't know. It's kind of where it's left.
Then why were you told to bring the emails out and discuss them? Let's go back to the question at hand. Because all this shows is that three parents were in talks about trying to find resources to best benefit their child. And doesn't make any of them look shitty.
Is that what these places?
It makes them look like the typical parents with a child with behavioral issues trying to find resources and support for a child. I'm sorry, I'm not finding anything nefarious here at all, except for why are we skirting around why these emails are being asked to be brought out now? Because they have nothing to do with the light situation, period, point blank, end of story. So save that for somebody else.
Dude, I think so, Heather. I think some of it is ABA. I'm not sure. I know my son does ABA, but he don't have to go anywhere for that. So, and I think it's important for us to understand that his behavioral issues are just given some info, we can all come to a wrong conclusion. No, he had absolute behavioral issues. I don't care. People can down me if they want to. I'm tired of this shit. Like I don't care who you are. I understand it's a young man that's missing, and I get it, and it sucks. He's a great dude. Like at the end of the day, though, he had problems. He was a 15-year-old who had problems. That's it.
But it doesn't prove that, Brandy. Truthfully and respectfully, it doesn't prove that. We knew that they were communicating. They were co-parenting. They had been in talks. We've heard stories of this before. This doesn't prove anything that we didn't know. If you think about it, we knew that they were communicating about Sebastian going to live with Seth. We knew that they had conversations about this. Like, none of this is proving anything that we didn't know. So again, it falls short on why now? What is so beneficial about these? Because they were in communication.
But the ins and outs of those problems aren't my business, your business, anybody's business. But I will say, painting the narrative as if he was an innocent young kid who doesn't know any better is not the truth. He was a 15-year-old autistic young man coming into his hormones who he was like me. I mean, any 15-year-old male, like just a little bit different. So again, yeah, I was hell on wheels at 15 too, to be honest with you. I was very hell on wheels. My granddad wanted to my granddad used to chase me around with a case knife and say, "Boy, if you don't shut," or what do you say? "If you don't stop and listen to me, I'm gonna cut your damn ears off and bury you in the backyard." What he'd say. And I'm like, "Oh shit." And then I'm used to tell my grandma sew all the time, like sew. And my grandma will always say she's gonna get out a needle and thread and sew my mouth shut. And I was like, "Oh, that's freaking awesome." So we discussed it. If people still refuse to even believe that, and think, well, no, they must have been thinking this, or that's pretty no, Alpha Male, I get what you're saying, man. I think that's what's irritating me right now is the fact that I swear on everything. The moment my freaking phone, well, let me say this: the moment I got off the internet, my phone blew up instantly, and it frustrated the shit out of me because I seen everything from disbanding this isn't this.
Nope, not today. Here's my thing on that. We don't know, and everybody's going to have a varying degree of what they think is problematic and not, and what people are struggling with. We shouldn't know. We should not, because it comes to the dignity of a minor child. I don't know casual art. Tell me, is anybody else like just fucking land the plane and be honest? Like, why are you wanting this to be discussed? Tell us what they told you and why to bring it out now. That's it. It's pretty fucking simple.
No, it's like, no, man, here's the clear line. Why this information was allowed to come out, I don't fucking know. I have no idea. What it is, though, is one.
But again, he skirts around and says he doesn't know. He doesn't have any idea. Obviously, there was a conversation about why this was important. Was it to show that all three of them were in communication and trying to find best options? Okay. It's not nefarious. I think it looks great that all the parents were involved in trying to find an option. But that doesn't seem to land. This is why you have to be transparent and straightforward.
100% real. And it's with three parents absolutely discussing something about a school. And Seth was a part of it. So, and that's the other thing. It's like, it was said that it's almost like, well, Seth and Katie had this horrible relationship. No, they talked. They shared a son together. They talked.
Well, no shit. No shit. They're co-parents. He moved to Tennessee to be closer to them. They were helping him. Like, how is this confusing to anybody?
Oh, so this narrative.
Just because Seth and his team have made it look like they can't talk, they didn't talk. We all know that they were reaching out to him to do interviews and stuff. Like, what?
Of Katie bad. Katie don't talk to me. Katie didn't do this. Like, it's not real. It's not real. I've seen it. I seen it with my own eyes.
We know.
It's ridiculous, man. If those emails are from 3 months before,
it's fucking insane.
Why are they relevant now? Right? That is very true. Why are they relevant? They were all parenting together until GoFundMe began.
Then tell us why you were told to talk about it. Why are they relevant? What was told to you of why this should be discussed? Explain it.
Being crazy. It seems weird they would break them apart after years of working together. Robin, thank you. Because I swear to God, that was one of my questions on the phone last night. I was talking to Clue, and I'm like, so I don't get it. Everything was copacetic, working. Might have some disagreeing, might had, a couple pushbacks. I mean, dude, we're all parents. Some of us are, doing the dual household thing. And sometimes there's some push.
Y'all, I'm not doing the back and forth between who's better, Seth, Katie, or Chris. This has nothing to do with it. Again, to me, this is so ridiculous because all it shows is that 3 parents were trying to figure out a solution for their child. No parent is perfect. All parents make mistakes. This is not a comparison of who's done worse or what is. Obviously, they were struggling to find options that were best suitable and all to be in agreement. That's pretty typical. I don't know. It's astounding to me, maybe because I live in this world. It's astounding to me that so many adults cannot grasp the simple concept of it's always a fight of what's best for your child and trying to do the best thing. Like, I'm not really sure where the disconnect is coming from here.
Back, right? But it seemed to be a functional household, right? Or a functional living situation. So
there is no such thing as functional. Let me just tell you, in this arena, we are all dysfunction junction. What is functional? We all have our struggles. Every one of us has struggles. They were the typical family having issues with a child. That is normal. Nothing like how this is being presented is so back-asswards.
Someone is playing games. Crimes. Some part of it makes you wonder, right? It makes you think. Because I'm telling you the problem I have. Why now? I keep going back. Why now? Why is this information coming out?
You should have probably fucking asked that as you were being told to talk about it. Like, you should maybe ask that, like, a clarification of why is this important to discuss now? What is the purpose of this? What is this going to bring clarity to?
Now, why is it something we're doing this? I don't know. All I know is that when something bothers me and it leaves me with questions, then honestly, all you can do is your due diligence and dig. And
But they have said that, Brandywine. They have said that most of the communication went through Chris and Seth, which again isn't a problem. No problem. They're still talking about Sebastian. The messages are, even if it was majority through Chris and Seth, who cares? None of that matters to us. Shouldn't matter to us. They're all parents doing their best. A lot of trauma, a lot of issues. I'm failing to see the big nefarious parts of this.
At the end of the day, like I said, man, I think this has helped me. Krabby, pull up some stuff on ODD. Okay. Y'all want ODD, opposition defiant. Here you go, guys. Hold on just a second. Let me move my screens on my Jumbotron.
So somebody in the comment section tells him to Krabby, pull up some stuff on ODD. Okay. And
oppositional defiant.
We have no indication that has anything to do with his diagnosis.
Disorder. Boom. All right. So I'm going to read this to you guys. Welcome to my classroom. This is Stephen.
I don't care.
She talked.
So listen.
Is just treat them with respect. You can ask all the fucking questions in the world. I swear to God.
I care.
Trust relationship there that she's worked really hard to be able to maintain. She's done a hell of a job. And Chris and Katie are not fucking evil people, dude. They're easy to talk to. I'm just being honest, man. Honestly, Chris is fucking hilarious. Like, I know people don't want to understand that, but they're easy to talk to. All you have to do is just treat them with respect.
Their parents missing a child. I don't understand this.
You can ask all the fucking questions in the world. I swear to God. I've never, if I came at him sideways, then I could understand. But I've never came at him sideways. Even when I first spoke with him and I said, hey, man, I truly apologize for coming at you and Katie sidearmed, thinking with emotion, without facts. I was like, look, man, I'm always going to, I think it's the truth. Katie was the last one with him. I'm always going to question it. Always, until there's a clear path of she didn't do it or she did, right? Period. I'm always like, I don't know, but I will respect that, there is no evidence to suggest anything right now. And it's just questions and it's just conversation. Dude, I never had him once be like, fuck you. get out of my face. Never once. Matter of fact, he said, that's all right, man. He said, people make mistakes. I can't, what the hell am I supposed to do about that? Like,
Why the circle
that
jerk?
dude has treated me with the utmost respect by allowing me to come into their home, allowing me to
Because all they want is their child to be found. Truly.
sit on their couch, allowing me to discuss with Steve Fisher, with Clue, all of us sitting here trying to figure out what happened to Sebastian. But they're evil.
Frenchie Trev, because he can't fucking land a plane. He's saying that this was supposed to be talked about, but he can't tell you why it's supposed to be talked about because he does a whole lot of word salad and dances around the point. Be straightforward and honest, and won't end up in a clusterfuck like it's become.
They're just fucking evil.
Plus, I don't like this guy because he's.
I don't know. I think you're painting a fucking narrative because the narrative sells. That's what it is. At the end of the day, you should be able to talk to all these parents, be able to sit down with them. They should have nothing to hide. They should be able to say, hey, man, and honestly, I don't feel like they've hid anything. I mean, why this come out? I don't know. And I've been asked that since last night. You think I could pull a rabbit out of my ass? If I could, I would.
You were a part of the discussion of why you were going to be discussing it. You took part in the discussion, but you don't know why?
I can't. I don't know. Yeah, Princess. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Look, Katie's been, if you go in there, Katie's like, she likes showing you his little Geico and stuff. She talks about him a lot, man. He has a Geico. This is going to be what?
Of course she would. What? She talks about her son a lot. No shit, Sherlock.
Way off topic, and I'm sorry I've got to mention this, but or whatever this lizard is, it has a set of nuts that are out of this. I don't understand. I've never seen a lizard
ridiculous
with a set of nuts like this. But it's Sebastian's pet gecko, I guess. I don't fucking know. But it's a cool little dude, man. She has him set up against the wall, man, and she likes sharing things that Sebastian did. So
well, of course she wants to talk about her child. She misses her child. Like what?
Imp Treasure, I would assume so. I would think so. What was the thud Kate never? Oh, did CP hit Sebastian? No, right. He is not the father. Chris hadn't been around Sebastian since February 2nd, man.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
We know that.
I have absolutely seen the emails from my own eyes. Yes.
He's seen the emails with his own eyes. But he can't tell you why he was supposed to talk about it.
We were sitting on the couch, literally. Did it try to sell you car insurance? Shit. Dude, Kales, I swear to God, it has nuts. I can't make this up. Yes, crimes. They have balls. I know this is off topic right now. They do. I'm telling whatever lizard this is. Geico, something. It was like brown. She like handed them to me, and his little dude parts were dragging my hand. If they didn't name that lizard these nuts, I know, dude. Can I explain what more? No. I don't know any more of that, but I know legitimately, factually, Chris had not seen him. He had been on the road working, and that is actually confirmed through law enforcement. Seems odd. Two parents are just MIA and all this. Where's the mom's voice? Look, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to just try to put it in my way. At a certain point, no matter when you come to the internet, it's always attacks.
It's attacks because you're not being clear at all about what is happening here.
At a certain point, man, you don't offer anybody anything anymore. You don't owe anybody shit.
They don't owe anybody shit. But if there was a reason for this, if there was a purpose for this, like, why is this so hard?
The only thing you owe is to law enforcement, and that is on anything that they ask for, because you are trying to find your son. So when it comes to the general public, they don't owe us shit.
No shit.
Just saying, man, they don't. I mean, and I have to understand that. It's frustrating. I get it. But we're not privy to information. I'm just telling y'all the truth, man. At the end of the day, Chris and Katie decided that going into the damn spotlight isn't a good idea. Look what happens every time they do, man.
Okay, so they decided not going into the spotlight is the best thing to do. So they show you guys these emails, tell you to discuss them, but what's the purpose? You can't tell us the purpose. You can't tell us what the point was of the discussion. All to me, again, I'm going to go back. To me, these emails show that 3 parents were struggling to find an option that best suits their child. Nothing nefarious about it. evasive to the nth degree. Can you? Yeah, right. And this is why I'm frustrated.
Their words get picked apart, just like my words get picked apart all the fucking time. I get it.
Because it's a serious situation of a missing child. If there was an intent of why they wanted these to be discussed, then it needs to be stated as such, straightforward, to the point, factual, and move it along. Because now it's opened up all the opportunity for all this other fuckery to come in.
And to anyone truly trying to help, which I feel
They were all trying to do what they best could to suit Sebastian. I don't know how anybody is shocked by that. All three of them were trying to find out solutions for Sebastian. We've known that.
have done to SF. Yeah, absolutely. This is really sad. We need to stop accusing all three of them. That's what I think, man. At the end of the day, we're talking about, and we're going to put Seth in this, right? Their child is missing, man. Seth's child. Me and Seth fucking can't stand each other. It's known. He thinks I'm a piece of shit, and I think he's a bigger one. But I'm going to tell you this right now. The man didn't do nothing to that kid. Neither did Chris and Katie, though. And that's the problem. No, you have to choose sides.
No, you don't. No, you don't. The side should be the facts and the facts only of what helps bring Sebastian home.
I don't get it.
No.
And I mean that as in a black and white. I don't mean that as an opinion. I mean this as,
Mike, I'm with you.
There is no factual fucking evidence to suggest Seth has done something to his child, Chris has done something to this child, or Katie. And until it comes out, we have nothing. So I'm not going to treat any of them as criminals. I'm not doing it. I came out at the very beginning of this because I was very emotional, thinking emotionally about this. My son is autistic.
Okay, I can't handle any more of the circle talk. I just can't. It just circles around. So this is supposed to come out now. They were supposed to talk about it, but he can't tell you why. He was shown the email, sat there with them. Truth even calls him on it and says, you know exactly why this is supposed to come out. There was an absolute reason for it, and they skirt around the bush. Okay. I'm fucking over it. But then this turns into this from last night. And we've already seen what it turned into. So this opens the door for more bullshit to come out. And you guys might not like my take on a lot of this right here. So buckle up, because you might not like my little stance.
In advance for not doing that.
When you said you had two things to share, I thought that was one of them.
Oh no, I was just talking about Annie Banani and R. Taylor.
Right.
Okay.
And our guest is probably like, what's going on?
Our guest is like, what? Hello, guest. We just realized you were there.
I'm so sorry, but thank you for joining us, Tony. We've got Tony Mathis here, of course, the spokesperson for Seth Rogers, and we appreciate you joining us. How are you doing today, Tony?
I'm doing good, Mr. E. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear perfectly. You guys.
Thank you. Duchess says, well, again, we shouldn't even know that. I mean, truly, it doesn't need to be verified. We shouldn't even know that. Oh my God. We shouldn't fucking know this shit. We shouldn't know this shit. I don't need them to verify any of his diagnoses. I don't need to know that the child is missing and needs to be found. Sorry. And nothing against you, Duchess, at all. Like, I just feel like the more I know, I appreciate that, Duchess, but they shouldn't even be speaking about this shit without just being straightforward. You and I had this discussion, and this is what's so frustrating to me is come out, tell us what we need to know. Like, what do Chris and Katie want us to know? Obviously, that they were all communicating and trying to find solutions and the best options for Sebastian. I don't fault them for that. I don't fault them for being parents struggling to find solutions and answers to a teenager's behaviors. It's fucking hard, man. It is hard. My heart breaks for all of them because it's a back and forth. You might have an answer and then you figure out something else and then no, and then it's back. I feel for Sebastian, truly. Like, sorry, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because then it opens up the door for this shit.
Did great with the show with Seth the other day. We were just talking about this earlier. I've never seen a live like that where it was moving so fast, and I think they had it slowed down like the slowest rate as possible. We were modding, and trying to block the trolls and that kind of thing, and it was almost impossible that you couldn't even click on them fast enough. But a huge
I got them sped up because I want to get through this as fast as possible. This is Tony Mathis, the national spokesperson for Seth Rogers. Let me be very clear. He is the spokesperson for Seth Rogers, not Sebastian Rogers. Okay, just setting the tone here. This is Seth's spokesperson, not Sebastian's spokesperson. All right? Very clear distinction here.
huge success. You guys had a great, a lot of interest. There's still obviously tens of thousands of people that are still following this case and so supportive of the effort to bring Sebastian back home. And so you all did great. It was a very interesting interview. But I appreciate you joining us today. And I think that if I understand correctly, what you were interested in discussing was maybe helping to clear up some timeline issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. First off, Mrs. E, how are you? And Aunt E, how are you?
I'm great. And Mrs. E stepped off for just a second, but I'm doing great. I'm wish it was a little bit warmer where I live because it's supposed to be warm here, but it's not.
Casual art, that's what I'm saying. I don't fault any of them. Today has really sat me on my ass. I had an IEP meeting this morning. And for those of you that know what IEP meetings are like, it's draining. It's hard. It's exhausting. I can't even imagine being in their shoes, having a child that's missing that you struggled to find resources for and fight for. And then the ultimate thing, the fear of all of us, your child comes up missing. You have no answers. You don't know. You tried to do everything in your power to find resources. Doors close in your face. There's not enough funding. There's not enough resources. Private pay facilities are so expensive. Like, I can't even imagine the stress for all of these parents. But to see how his private personal details are being leveraged for a pointing fingers situation here sickens me. Because at the end of the day, minors cannot consent. Sebastian's dignity should be first and foremost in the forefront. And that has been completely thrown out the window.
But other than that, I'm doing great.
And Mrs. E just
Good.
stepped back in here, so he was just asking how you were doing.
Well, I had to run to the restroom, so I'm back. I'm
I
doing
completely
good.
understand that, by the way.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Sounds like you're driving.
I am. I'm out, headed out into West Texas.
Very good. Well,
What's the song with West Texas in it?
I don't know.
Old El
West
Paso.
Town of El Paso.
Yep.
Yeah,
Marty Robbins.
Yep.
we're showing our age there.
No kidding.
Oh, we know what
So,
8 tracks are.
So what I'd like to talk about, guys, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to come on and clear some of this up. First thing I can tell your audience is that you guys are here tonight with a group of people that verify, re-verify, as Mr. E said over and over again.
Stop it, Tony. Just stop. Because you've been the source of misinformation previously. So there's that.
Try to gain information from a couple or three different sources before they put it out. And unfortunately, and I'm not going to get into mentioning creators by name, but unfortunately, we're dealing with other creators that they really don't verify anything, and it's kind of a pattern with some of these creators. And the latest.
Oh, save the fucking speech there, sir. That's 99% of your goddamn team and the riddles that they put out.
Thing that's out there from a couple creators is that there had been an email sent by Seth Rogers that he was trying to get Sebastian put in a home.
That's not what was stated. It wasn't stated that Seth Rogers was solely trying to put his son in his home. That was never said that Seth was the only one trying to put him in a home. It was stated that they were looking for options and there was an email exchange about facilities. That's it. That's all. But of course, they're going to take every opportunity to throw more twists and turns in here and release more salacious bullshit. This is why it's so important, if you are trying to discuss the facts, that you are straightforward, transparent, and exactly why you are saying information and exactly what you want to get across. Because the only person that is hurt in the furthering of this is Sebastian and his dignity.
I think it started out September, October, that kind of thing. Even the dates aren't correct. I heard another rumor that something to the effect of Seth was told that, well, they had given Seth a year to get his home in order. And because he couldn't get his home in order, they were going to do something different with Sebastian. That's kind of like it's kind of like a lot of the other things that have happened there locally. It's just not factual.
It's just not factual, Tony. It's just not factual. Let me just remind you for a moment here. Let me take you back a second here.
From kind of the beginning, and I have no doubt that you will find your son and that you'll be the reason. I truly think that. I mean, it's terrible what's going on, and tell me about him coming to live with you. I mean, so this was just a mutually agreed thing, and he was aware that it was happening. I mean, did he talk about it a lot with you?
Again, the date of this is March 20th. So we've known all along, those of us that have been paying attention, that the three parents were trying to find solutions to best serve Sebastian and what he was going through. Most of us who have been paying attention have known that. Most of us who have been paying attention and not trying to just say, oh, the parents are guilty of some salacious bullshit based off of rumors, have known that they were all three struggling to find the proper solutions to best benefit Sebastian. Welcome to parenthood. It fucking sucks and it's hard and there's no straightforward answers and you can try everything and fail at everything and never find a solution and fail through the cracks. You can still do your best. You can find solutions. You can try 9 things and the 10th thing work. It happens to the best of us, and it doesn't mean that none of them didn't love their son, they didn't want the best for him, and that they weren't trying all of their hardest in their ways of trying to find solutions.
Well,
sorry, I'm very pissed off about this because as a parent that deals with shit like this, I can't understand how grown-ass adults are trying to leverage this shit to paint one or the other as bad or good or anything. They are parents struggling with a teen that was obviously struggling. End of.
You know how Chris said, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Hindsight's 2020. He was supposed to come live with me last year.
Oh, okay.
But I gave my son another chance to straighten his behavior up and actually apply himself at school, which he is fully capable of.
So Seth doesn't say that it was because of him not having things in order. He puts it off on, he gave Sebastian time to straighten up his behavior. So that's the difference between what Tony is saying and what Seth did say. Seth put it off on Sebastian. He gave Sebastian longer time to straighten up his behaviors. But these were Seth's own words. Let's be very clear. March 20th, the lab.
But and he's straightened up some, but he's still coming. He's already registered for school up here.
Oh, okay.
I want him here. He wants to be here. It's.
Could that have any? Could this have any bearing on him going missing? I mean, is it possible that he wanted to be with you, so he ran away and got lost?
Is it possible he was sick of all adults? He was sick of feeling misunderstood because he didn't even understand what was going on. Pretty typical of teenagers, if you ask me. Pretty typical of teenagers and parents to have a disconnect and not understand each other. Not saying that any of them did the right thing or the wrong thing. We don't know. I didn't live in that household to even judge that.
Possibly.
See, and that's what I don't think so, because he didn't leave with his phone. He didn't attempt to call me. His godparents live up in Clarksville too, and he has their phone number.
And the one thing that I'm going to mention that really bothers me that everybody fails to talk about with teenagers is teenagers suffer from suicidal ideation. I don't know, and I'm not saying that he did at all. I don't know. I don't know the child. I don't know. but nobody has even mentioned that as such as an option. Nobody has even been willing to talk about, you know what, kids have enough too. And it's something very realistic that we need to start talking about because teens struggle from it quite a bit. It needs to be a normalized conversation to tell them that it's okay to talk about things. I'm not saying again that's what Sebastian was going through, but I know teenagers that do deal with this. And it's such an isolating situation when they feel that they can't talk about it and nobody hears them. We have to start normalizing conversations around all sorts of things like this because all of us fail as parents. Every single one of us fails. We keep trying. We keep trying to do what's best. That's why I genuinely don't believe any of the parents have anything to do with Sebastian's disappearance. I believe 3 parents tried to do their best. And it is what it is. Going back to last night, you heard what I wanted you to hear. His own words. He gave Sebastian another year because of his behaviors. Now, it's being stated the opposite direction.
I'll take you guys back. First off, we're familiar with some of these DCS reports that have been talked about over and over again. I think it's important for your audience to know.
I think it's important. So now they're going to take an opportunity to throw in CPS records, DCS, FS records. Let me remind you before we even walk into this conversation that we shouldn't know anything about these reports. These are the privacy of a minor child. These are sealed for a reason from the public because they are to do with the privacy of a minor child. These were also attempted to be weaponized before, and people were warned that if these were leaked or released, that there could be legal ramifications. Again, this is Tony Mathis, Seth's spokesperson, who is speaking on these reports as if they are facts. We have not heard this from law enforcement. We have not heard this from DCFS. We do not know the contents or the narratives in these reports. There are many other options beyond abuse, neglect, that CPS can be contacted. I know, shocker, huh? Shocker. There's many other reasons. And where we don't know the contents of these, to even put it out there as fodder is disgusting. Sorry, it is. It's disgusting.
That over the last 2 years, there's been 5 different DCS reports that were filed. Those reports started in 22.
So did you say 5, Tony?
Correct.
Okay.
Are these all in the Proudfoot home?
Correct.
Okay,
Now-
I don't think I've ever heard that number before.
Okay, first and foremost, let me remind you of something. Logic. Let's think logically here, people. Again, sorry, I'm really fed up. I'm really fired up. Where's his, let me ask you guys a question. What's his primary residence? What's his primary residence? Would it be Katie's house? Sure would. So all of the reports are going to be at the primary residence, in my opinion, or have contents about the primary residence contained, because that is his address. That is his full-time residence. So no matter what the narrative is in the report, it could be something completely out of the home, could be something that happened at the school. It is going to include his primary residence. Logical thinking. Let's put it into play here, people.
So what I can tell you, obviously, we are not allowed to discuss the content of those reports.
Right.
We are not allowed to discuss the contents of those reports. Is it legal for him to disperse this to his national spokesperson? That's what I would like to know. That's what I would like to know. There's no way of us possibly knowing. There's no way of us possibly knowing. But this is called emotional manipulation to keep a narrative going. I'm not saying Tony is coming out to defend these emails. He should have stuck to the emails, told us about what his take on the emails was, left it at that. But instead, he takes an opportunity to throw out more salacious information that we shouldn't even know about. Because again, how is this helping find Sebastian? Let me remind you again, law enforcement was privy to this, all of these, however many reports there are, from jump. Law enforcement knows all of this. They know the contents of these. They know everything. And I need to remind you all that nobody has been charged with neglect or abuse at all. We're thinking logic here.
I can tell you that whether they're in one parent's name or the other step parent's name, the allegations are consistently against the step parent. So you can have a DCS report that's filed.
And he goes on to tell us that the allegations are consistently made against the step parents. Where's the proof? Until there is proof, which we shouldn't even have access to, or we should know, he knows that we can't have proof. He knows that they can't legally release them. So he is banking on the emotional state of the audience, pulling them in to disguise any conversation about this email, when the emails aren't nefarious to begin with. The emails show that all three of them were working in their best capacity to find solutions for Sebastian.
That may be in the mom's name, but it may be regarding the environment that she is allowing her child to be in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go back to the first of these DCS reports was.
I encourage anybody that doesn't understand CPS reports, DCFS reports, to look into the different types of reports, the different types of reports that are potentially made. You would be shocked at things outside of neglect and abuse that can be talked about and people make reports on to DCFS. There are so many other possibilities besides abuse and neglect. Again, we don't know because we will not know because it's not legal for them to release these. So they can release salacious details that Tony, the spokesperson of CES, is stating. We don't know this as a fact.
Filed in 22. So fast forward to 23, which would have been, let's say, a year ago at this time. Katie and Chris were actually trying to get Seth to take Sebastian a year before everybody knew that the plan was for him to go to live with Seth. So you look at, I want to say, October of 22. Now these dates are rough. They're within a month or so of being accurate.
Okay.
What? He's saying these dates are rough. What? God, I just want to throw this away. I just want to throw this away. School mandated reporters. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah. These are rough dates. We're just going to throw shit out there.
And in October of 22, they had tried to get Seth to take Sebastian then. This is not something that a lot of people know. Well,
I have not heard this. No.
Are you fucking joking? Are you joking? Are you joking? How do people not know about this? I'm getting fined by the HOA for playing this on repeat.
You know, it's terrible what's going on, you know, and tell me about him coming to live with you. I mean, so this was just a mutually agreed thing, and he was aware that it was happening. I mean, did he talk about it a lot with you?
Well, you know how Chris said, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Hindsight's 2020. He was supposed to come live with me last year,
Oh, okay.
but
Oh,
I gave
we didn't know about this. Sorry, guys. Sorry, this just magically appears that Seth told us all about this. We've known about this. We've known about, like, this is, are you people? Here, let me go back. Here you go.
my son another chance to straighten his behavior up and actually apply himself at school, which he is fully capable of. But and he's straightened up some, but he's still coming. He's already registered for school up here.
Oh, okay.
I want him here. He wants to be here. It's
Again, nothing new here. Nothing new here. What's really disappointing to me is Sebastian's dignity is thrown out the entire window here with all of this. Tony speaking on a child that he doesn't know, wasn't involved in his life, doesn't even have a clue what, besides what he's been told. But he has no clue what he's even talking about or what the actual struggles this kid was going. None of this helps. Not a single bit of this helps. Not a single bit of this. Law enforcement had all of this information. We already knew. The public already knew. They've all talked about this. They all were telling us that they were trying to find resources. He was struggling with behaviors. Obviously, things fell through the cracks. Whatever the case may be. I don't know any of these people. I don't have a side in this. Besides, Sebastian deserves dignity and to be brought home. That's it.
What they're talking about when they say that things could not get in order for him to get Sebastian, it had nothing to do with his home. It had to do with the fact that they wanted him to take Sebastian in the fall of 22, and he had tried to get signed up for.
But that's not what Seth just told us in March, Tony. You're rewriting what Seth even told us. It's useless. Let it be. They all were struggling. Their child is missing. Stop trying to play this emotional manipulation game with the public. Sebastian is missing no matter what his behaviors were, no matter what the situation was. He is a human being who deserves dignity and to be brought home. Period, point blank, end of story.
The online program with Clarksville schools, and there was a waiting list, and he could not get approved. So he had a conversation with Chris and Katie and told them that he really thought that it would be smart for them to continue to let him finish out the school year and not move him to another physical school in the middle of the year. So that's what happened. He stayed in his, stayed at the school he was at for the remainder of 22 and part of 23. So fast forward to November of 23, we know that there were more DCS reports filed in that month.
He had just been diagnosed in October of 2023 with autism.
And we know that on or about the time those DCS reports were filed, Seth Rogers received a call from Chris and Katie that they wanted to put Sebastian in a behavioral center. Basically, you can call it a boys' home. I don't like to call it that. I like to call it.
So again, he's admitting that there was communication between the three of them about potentially putting him in an inpatient facility. And the fucking problem is what? What? Three parents struggling to find resources for their kid. Tell me the problem with this. Tell me how it's any of the internet's business. Tell me how this is helping find Sebastian. Welcome to the wonderful world of struggling to find resources for your children. Welcome to the fucking real world, internet. And there is no perfect story.
But a behavioral center. They were having problems with Sebastian at home. They were having problems with Sebastian at school. They were kind of at their wits' end with him. According to Seth, they did not have a lot of patience.
They were obviously not having problems with Sebastian at school. Let me correct that really quick. Parents have no say in what is going on with a child at school. If he was struggling in school and the school could have possibly been reporting, logic, people, logic. Let's use it for once.
Patience with him, which is why they had a lot of problems that Seth did not have when he was with Seth. So Seth asked Chris and Katie to send him the name of the organization that they.
And that's not true because Seth himself in March said that he was giving him longer to get his behaviors under control, and he had gotten some, but not all the way there. Again, why are we faulting any of these parents? We don't know. But it's just a pointing fingers match now. Who's doing the best? Well, shit, we all fail.
They were trying to send him to. They sent him the name. The name of that organization was Bledsoe Youth Academy in Gallatin, Tennessee. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that place.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Okay. So that was in November of 23. Seth does research on that specific center. And according to Seth, there had been 5 or 6 childhood deaths associated with that facility.
Oh, wow.
So when he found
I did go down the rabbit hole a little bit on that, and I cannot confirm that claim yet at this point in time. Just so I will follow up with that later.
that out, he reached out to Chris and Katie again by phone, let them know that under no circumstances was his son going to that facility, and gave them the reason. So they in turn told Seth that if he could find another behavioral facility that he liked better or that he thought was a safer place for Sebastian, they would allow, they would consider that. So the infamous email that people are talking about was simply a forwarded email. I have a copy of it, and I will send it to you guys off the air.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
He reached out to a lady that was a behavioral specialist, and she
A liaison, no big deal, an advocate.
recommended 4 different centers.
And the 4 recommendations that she gave Seth are boys' ranches. Let me take a deep breath here. If kids are struggling with chemical imbalances, we cannot pray these behaviors away. It's about time people start getting real with what mental health is, what behavioral issues are. Praying does not fix these situations, and most of these were some type of Christian boys' ranch. Coming from a person that went to visit her stepbrother in and out of Christian boys' ranches my entire childhood, and he has now been locked up in prison most of his adult life. They don't fix everything. They're not a quick fix for everybody. Not all of them are bad, but I have major problems personally and for help purposes, because if you look at all of those, not one of them focuses on autism, medical complexities such as the 6q27 chromosomal deletion syndrome, and so on. But let me leave that behind because I will go on a whole tirade about the troubled teen industry and people and their disgusting belief systems of how you fix chemically imbalanced or mental health. And nobody's got time for that shit today. Conversion therapy is a joke. Say it again.
And the
Okay.
4 centers were, one was in Missouri, one was in Utah, one was in Wyoming, and then the 4th one was in another state. I can't remember what state it was in.
Okay.
So when Seth got that email, the email described in great detail each facility, what they treated, what they specialized in, a little bit about the facility, and it was basically a synopsis of all 4 facilities. So Seth, on December 1st, simply forwarded that email to Chris and Katie. Again, I have a copy of the forwarding email. So they did some research, figured out that those facilities were between $5,000 and $10,000 a month. They decided it wasn't in the cards for the blended family together to be able to pay for that. So that's when they went back.
And another note I want to put into this, because it was off of what like a boys' ranch is a private pay facility versus a medically necessary or Terry, are you in here? What's the correct term for an inpatient? I am losing my mind right now. A residential facility for children with autism or intellectual disabilities, a group home, anything like that. A lot of times insurance will pay for that. But if it is a group home type of situation, like a boys' ranch, a lot of times they are private pay only. Some of them are licensed, some of them are not licensed. So this would have been a private pay, but least restrictive environment. Thank you. Residentials facilities sometimes are covered by insurance, but this would have been obviously out of that spectrum where insurance would have covered it, which also leads to a lot of questions for me, but carry on.
Back to Well, when this school year is over, he's coming to live with you, which would have been in May, which of course Seth said, fantastic.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to go.
ExploreCore, I absolutely will make generalizations because the one home that they're talking about, let me just give you a rundown really quick on this. The one home that is mentioned is called the Masters Ranch. Let me give you a little inclination here about the Masters Ranch. When Derek Lorenz showed up at Masters Ranch West in March, it reminded him of a plantation. He came from the sprawling Eastern Washington property in Prescott to interview for a job at the newly opened Christian boarding school for troubled boys. The vast property with homes for staff, dorms, classrooms, and chapel is in rural Walla Walla County, about 35 miles east of the Tri-Cities, Washington State. This is Masters Ranch you'll hear it say that it's the same one, the same group of people in Missouri too that they're talking about. But Lorenz, a former drill sergeant, had received a medical retirement in May 2019 after 12 years in the Army. He'd also spent 15 years volunteering in the youth ministry and became an ordained minister in November. He thought the combination of skills left him well suited for the challenges of a school for at-risk boys. He was hired as a mentor and exercise drill sergeant at the school, bringing his wife and 3 young children from California to live at the ranch. But he told the Herald he quit after just a couple months, and he called Child Protective Services over his growing concerns about the treatment of some of the boys at Masters Ranch West. Being in the military, I was a combat instructor. I had 4 years of martial arts, he said. In my experience, it was too much. On Monday, Walla Walla County Sheriff's deputies and state child welfare officers showed up at the ranch to interview some of the boys and staff. They ended up taking 8 boys into protective custody and made plans to return the next day to remove 30 others and have them picked up by parents. But before the authorities came back, the remaining teens had armed themselves with shovels and brooms in an angry protest. Deputies have responded to the ranch 7 times in 13 days, including reports of several boys stealing a car and shoplifting. They arrested a 20-year-old employee on suspicion of molesting the daughter of a staff member. Deputies say that they are investigating other abuse allegations. Officials with the State Department of Child, Youth, and Families told the Herald they cannot discuss their investigation. It's not clear what laws govern the faith-based facility that is not state licensed. Masters Ranch West website, which was inactivated Saturday, said that they offer mentoring, military-like environment that integrates educational, spiritual, and personal growth curriculum. I can't even say that. To help at-risk boys succeed in life. Pastor David Bosley at the Masters Baptist Church and his wife, Teresa, opened the Prescott School about 6 months ago, though they've been in talks to buy it since 2018. They have operated the nonprofit Masters Ranch Therapeutic Ranch and School for At-Risk Boys in Missouri since 1997, and recently announced on Facebook their plans to open Bellevue Academy for Girls in Missouri, which has its own list of huge problems in the news. And was closed down. There's that too. Hold on, let me go back. The Masters Ranch, Missouri website describes itself as helping rebellious or difficult boys get back on better track for life. It says it offers a balance of discipline and training and an unmistakable atmosphere of mentoring, one in acceptance. This week, Bosley posted on the Masters Ranch West Facebook page they are no longer accepting students in Prescott until they can work out issues with the state. The Facebook page was later taken down. It is unclear Friday on the status of the ranch. At one point, they housed 40 boys from 10 states. On Tuesday, he told the Herald he was driving from Missouri to return to Washington State because of the problems. On Friday, he declined to talk about the current status of the ranch and the state investigation, referring the Herald to his attorney for a formal statement, which had yet to be released. Bosley said Tuesday that the problems this month stemmed from 2 disgruntled former employees, one who says he was too aggressive and another who was stirring up the students. Some of the riled up students then ran away, he said. In a Facebook video that he's since taken down, Bosley called CPS actions poorly thought out, saying that it converted a normal peaceful academy into Lord of the Flies chaos. I'm confident that CPS will pay heavily, he told the Herald Friday. It was undeserved. And there's many more of all of these ones that are named. I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. You want to talk about Teen Challenge? Am's naming a bunch in the comment section. We don't just talk about it and blanket all these. A lot of them have severe issues, and there's a lot of abuse that is covered up at a lot of these places. And parents do their best thinking that they're sending their kids off to get help, and in turn come back way more fucked up because of the abuse and the things that they are inflicted upon. I lived in Utah, if you forget, where the troubled teen industry is a huge moneymaker and for profit. I also live miles away from one of the programs where Chad Frankie was sent, one of the wilderness camps. The troubled teen industry and the religious combination, not licensed, is a dangerous mix. I'm going to carry on now before I just get stuck down that hole because I have a lot to say.
Go back to Clarksville, and I'm going to find out if he is ready to be approved for that online school. Well, in a matter of a week, Seth found out that Sebastian's name had come up, which would have been the second week of December, and that Sebastian had been approved.
Nope, not today. See, the thing is we shouldn't know what his behaviors were or weren't. We don't know enough about Sebastian and what he was experiencing and stuff, which we shouldn't, to make that judgment. I don't know what would be considered
approved for the online school. Basically, his turn in line had come up, so everything was situated there. They quit talking about the behavioral centers or what have you, and just accepted the fact that in May he was going to live with his dad, and it would be his dad that would be dealing with him and any issues he may or may not have.
And they determined as a family that that was their next route. Again, where's the problem with this? To all of my adults in here that went to these programs or these camps, or I'm glad you're still here today.
So fast forward to the end of January of 24, there was another DCS report that was filed. We do not have the details of that report because that report was ongoing when Sebastian went missing.
So even Seth has never read this one.
Correct.
And Tony, there's a few questions in chat about this. And if I remember correctly, Seth had to go to an attorney to get these reports in the first place, correct?
The report, yes, all of the reports that I mentioned previously that were not currently open, he had to go to an.
Oh, Am. Yeah, we need to talk about this. Am sending me more places. She's talking about Fox Island. Ugh, Donata Fida. Am and I are going to do a live together soon and talk more about some of this stuff.
An attorney to get those reports.
Can I just clarify? So that one that happened in January that Seth has not been able to read, is that is the 5th CPS report that we know of?
Correct.
Okay.
Explorer Corps, and please understand, I'm not trying to be rude, but these are specific ones that are mentioned, and you can go search them publicly and find complaint after complaint after complaint. I am actually glad that the option, Sebastian's missing, so there's that, but I'm glad that they decided to try Seth first. Besides because the horror stories from all of their campuses are very public.
Wow.
That's insane.
Now, I'm a math guy, but I don't think you have to be a mathematician for this to add up. And I'm certainly not going to come on your show and start getting into accusing anybody, but
no.
Get to the point where there's enough DCS reports and it's been made very clear that they don't want to deal with this child. And on February 25th, early February 26th.
I'm sorry, but to me, it's not very clear that none of them wanted to deal with their child. To me, it sounds like typical parents frustrated with navigating a system that doesn't isn't user friendly to find the best available resources and get easy, accessible help for a child that is struggling. Sounds like frustrated parents, all three of them, if you listen to their words, and there we go. I'm going to remind you guys, though, because this is something that a lot of people want to forget and act like it wasn't talked about. Let me let him play just a few more moments.
The boy goes missing.
Wow.
That's incredible. Why didn't one of the questions that popped in my mind just going through when you were giving this timeline? So if he was trying to get him registered for the online school in 2022, but wasn't able to get in because of a waiting list.
And another thing I want to put logic back into is we don't know if he was attempted to be contacted. We don't know if Seth was attempted to be contacted. A caseworker could have reached out to him. We have no idea the involvement between DCFS and Seth Rogers. All we are hearing is words from his national spokesperson. He claims he didn't know about this, but he also claimed that Sebastian never complained to him or said anything to him ever, or told him of any of these complaints. He didn't know that there was these problems until after Sebastian went missing. That weighs heavily in the back of my mind because he was obviously asking and Sebastian wasn't communicating those with him. Was he reached out to? I don't know. But it goes back to my theory of if there was all of these failures to act and these reports are as they claim, why aren't they investing their energy into DCFS in Tennessee versus a frivolous RICO claim in Pennsylvania?
Why didn't he take him at the beginning of the fall of 2023? Was there, do you know the reason?
Hadn't been approved yet. They approve them all throughout the year.
So there was even a 2-year backlog on trying to get into that online
Right.
school.
Tony said the first week of December he was approved for the online school, and that would have been in 2023.
I see.
It was about 14 months it took him to get approved.
And just to be clear for people in chat, Tony said that the last report that Seth could not get because it's an ongoing report has not been closed.
Wander, that's very true. There is not a lot of pediatrics unless you are in a state with a good like university hospital, a teaching hospital, one of the top 10 hospitals. There's usually not good pediatric facilities or even inpatient. There's some places that don't have any inpatient resources for pediatrics within 4 to 5 hours. Crisis response a lot of times is backlogged for pediatrics. It's a whole world that if you don't know, consider yourself lucky. It is an exhausting fight, and my heart goes out to every and all parents that are in this world that are trying to do their best for their children and their loved ones.
And okay.
And
that's why he cannot get it.
Someone else in chat was asking about a meeting with all parents at the school.
Sweet Crazy, Primary Children's. You also have Wasatch. But there are a bunch of options. UTBS. There are a bunch of options in Utah. If anybody is in Utah and needs a list of resources, I have a million. You can call the Children's Justice Center and they will give you a list of resources. They handle a lot of sexual assault and things like that, but they also have resource lists and they are amazing to work with. The Children's Justice Center in Utah. Anybody in the state of Utah or surrounding states, because a lot of people get transferred to Utah, please reach out.
On February 10th. Do you know anything about that?
Or he might not be able to speak on it.
Guys, just like I had to gather all the information for you guys on this, I would have to ask that question and gather that information.
Right.
Gotcha.
No, this
is kind of shocking.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say.
So I'm going to, just in the spirit of your audience knowing that that all of this is that all of this is fact-based.
Just in the spirit of your audience knowing this is the emotional manipulation. I'm going to call it what it is. You can think Tony is telling the truth. I don't know. Until there's proof behind this from law enforcement, I'm not going to assume. Sorry, you guys know how I work. If it's not coming from law enforcement, it's irrelevant. Law enforcement has all this information. If they do not find it, you know, it could play a role into why he is no longer at home. Very easily could have walked out, said, peace out. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm done. I mean, truly. But this emotional manipulation in the spirit of making sure your audience knows that this is fact-based. Come on now. This is the dignity of a minor child that you have no care about, just like, oh, well, here you go. Sherry, thank you for being a member.
And I've verified all of it, looked at the emails.
And he is verifying exactly what the other people are saying, that there was emails between the three of them. They were trying to find resources. But he just upped it a notch and decided to throw all this other shit in there.
First of those 4 places, and you guys can write this down. First of the 4 recommendations was a place called Masters Ranch Academy. That's the Missouri one.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Masters Ranch. Okay.
New Hope Christian Academy was in Texas. Oasis Boys Ranch.
Somebody said earlier in a comment section that I was in that New Hope was closed down. There's multiple New Hopes. Just make sure you're Googling the right places.
Is in Wyoming. And the one that you guys are probably familiar with, that there's been conversation about, was the 4th one, which is Stillwater Academy in Utah. And that's where a lot of the Tennessee boys go that have these types of issues.
Utah has so many facilities in the troubled teen industry. It is absolutely scary.
Okay. I'm making notes. Sorry, Tony.
And
No,
at the
that's
bottom of the email, the lady said all of these locations have openings. And this email was from Tara Akers.
Angela, if you haven't reached out to Primary Children's, the behavioral health department, I would absolutely encourage you to do so. A lot of times they do have social workers that work under the psychiatrists or psychologists, but they work hand in hand as a team. They will get you a team through Primary Children's. Now, depending on insurance too, but that would be my first suggestion. If you have not tried that, I would absolutely try that. I would also reach out to Wasatch or UTBS and ask for a list of resources. They will email you over a list of resources that might fit for your needs.
Who was the assistant director, information services for residential schools and programs.
Wow, that is really eye-opening.
But I would tell your audience that if you are going to pick
I would tell your audience, all for a show, right?
creators to listen to, before you take something and run with it, look at their track record.
But Tony, you just confirmed exactly what they were saying, that there was emails between the three of them that they were working together to find a best option for Sebastian. Why it was put out here now, I'm unsure of. But again, you confirmed the exact same thing, that all three of them were struggling to try and find the best option for Sebastian, and Sebastian was going to live with Seth. Okay.
And you've got some of these creators that have got things wrong over and over and over again.
So have you, sir. You have intentionally misinformed people time and time again.
And it doesn't fit their narrative that it was Chris and Katie that wanted him in a behavioral center. Seth did not control that decision because he was not the majority custodial parent.
He was obviously being included in the decision. Oh my God, who cares?
They were nice enough to give him some input.
They were nice enough to give him some input.
But he...
they all three had decided he was going to stay with Seth. Are you fucking joking, Tony?
He also wanted a center that would counsel him for some of the things he had been through when he was younger. And I think we all know what I'm alluding to.
Sure. And should. I mean, that's that is the chat. We're just kind of looking here with people are really heartbroken at this news.
Well,
It's kind of the
and it's my understanding.
consensus.
I want to ask Tony just to clarify this, because I'm seeing people say, why didn't Seth do anything if he knew about the 5 CPS reports? But it's my understanding he didn't.
Angela, I'm glad that you were somewhere better to better suit your needs. I will have to say here in Arizona, we have waiting lists for some stuff, but I have been very, very, very impressed with Arizona's resources for children.
No, right?
He didn't know about any of them.
That's
They
outrageous.
never-
That's outrageous.
They never notified him. When he got the DCS reports,
I'm going to insert a clip here coming up.
he didn't just get the ones from November. He got all of them.
I mean, that's that.
It was his custody, shared custody.
I don't know what they call it in Tennessee and Oklahoma. It would be joint custody, but it was, it was a weighted joint custody, right? I mean, he only had him every other weekend.
Right.
Gotcha. As long as his rights were
So she was basically the primary custodian and he had visitation. Okay, it doesn't matter. They had a schedule that worked for them. They didn't go back to court to switch custody arrangements. They were obviously communicating. Again, what's the problem with this? How does this make any of them look nefarious? It doesn't.
terminated, he should have had the ability to. I know because I worked in the school system for 27 years, and we had to notify any parent that still had rights to the child. Anytime we had to call
Bingo.
CPS and CPS came out, they once the investigation was started, we were required to do that. So I'm wondering why CPS did not contact the other parent.
Well,
That's strange.
Auntie, I would tell you that from the legal counsel that we have spoke to, they had a very straightforward legal responsibility to notify him. And I would say that you can't do much about this until we figure out what the damages are.
Right.
But I think that this situation is far from over.
Oh, so they did have a legal responsibility to notify him. That is
They
what.
did.
Oh,
Okay, I had not
I
heard
would have
you
been
do that.
surprised had
So he's acknowledging that something happened. At least one of these was from the school. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna read between the lines here. He's acknowledging that at least one of these was from the school because that's what she's talking about. And he said that he wasn't notified. Again, we don't know if he was notified or not. We have no idea if he was notified, what his level of knowledge was, if he was involved in meetings. We know that he was at school programs and involved in some of the school stuff. So there's that.
had they not been responsible, because I know that's not something you can drop the ball on.
I see.
Well, Smiles,
I guess Clutch the Pearls was on while we were on.
I got you. Just a second.
He just says, "I'm sitting 1,300 people laugh out loud." I was wondering what was going on here. Our numbers just went through the roof, and I guess he's hopping over here to hear you guys.
Tell Justin I said hello.
I think he can hear
yes,
you.
I'm sure he can hear you. But
Thank you, Justin.
what
We
I might
appreciate you.
do then is just kind of do a brief recap, Tony, if you don't mind, real quick about what you told us, and actually maybe you can correct me in case my notes are off. What Tony is
You need
doing.
my notes.
Yeah, if I need them legible, I'll grab yours. But yeah, so Tony basically came over here tonight to clear up some timeline issues. I guess there had been a rumor out there about Seth, and so he wanted to just give the full information, talk to Seth.
When he runs this breakdown by, I want you to remember what he says about this supposed open reports that was still open when Sebastian went missing. Okay.
Today, and back in October of 2022, Seth and the Proudfoots had all had a discussion about having Sebastian enter an online program in Clarksville and living with Seth.
Baton Rouge. Good point. Yeah. There's just so many different, it depends on there's just so many varying options here of what actually is going on. There truly is. We don't even know what the contents of these 5 reports were. But I've got an interesting thing to add in here. I posted this for people, but I'm going to play it because a lot of people don't click links.
There was a waiting list, so he couldn't get on that year. So they finished up that school year. The following summer comes. Once we get into the fall of 2023, he still can't get into that online school in Clarksville. The waiting list is still full. So he enters high school, of course. They start having trouble at school, behavioral issues. And then sometime around November of 2023,
CPS reports or DCS reports.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Watcher. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So actually during this time of 2022 through 2024 or January of 2024, there were a total of 5 different CPS reports made, all separate incidents, all mostly involving, it seems, the
5th one's still open.
The 5th one is still open.
The 5th one is still open. You heard that right? Okay.
but they all are directed, or they all involve the step parent.
And that is an allegation. We don't have any proof of that. I'm going to remind you guys of something.
Rogers, Sebastian's father, and Heather Cohen, a private investigator who is now working with him on the case. Thank you both for joining us. Seth, I have to start with you. First of all, I can't imagine being in your shoes. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this, and I'm grateful that you're joining us tonight. I think our viewers need to understand Sebastian was not physically in the home with you. You are no longer married to his mother. But I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing, and if you know anything tonight that you can share with us.
Just know that he's still missing. I know that there's been really no.
We also know, reminder, because you guys are saying in the comments, they made a report when Sebastian went missing, which would be open. Okay, people? We were told that when he went missing, a report was opened. That report would be still open as of right now because Sebastian's still missing. Again, put logic back into play here. Put logic back into play here, people. Okay, so that takes one out of there. So you got 4 supposedly, right? Well, let's go back a moment here. People are forgetting some of this stuff.
Leads that have been shared with me by law enforcement.
When you say there's no leads, are you working with law enforcement? Are they communicating with you?
The actual claim, Debbie, is that there were 5 reports from 2022 to the time he went missing, and all have to do with the primary residence of Sebastian. And they are alleging that all have allegations against the stepfather. That part I'm throwing right out the window. I'm sorry, but there's no proof of that. And it's easy for them to say because they cannot release the contents of these CPS reports because they involve the privacy of a minor. But we know that the last report has to do with him going missing. That is why it's open, because he is still missing. And his primary residence, Sebastian's full-time primary residence, would be their home. There's that. We got to put logic back into play. But this was when Heather Cohen was working on behalf of Seth Rogers.
Not communicating with me. They're communicating with anybody who'd be my private investigator.
Okay, Heather, I want to weave you into the conversation. You started working with Seth. Why are you working with Seth, and what can you tell us so far?
Well, I had received several phone calls, people asking me to get involved in the case, but I wouldn't do it until I was invited in by a family member or law enforcement. And I did end up getting that phone call.
Up to good. That is another good point. He could have been enlisted in another one to do with another situation. Absolutely. This is why it's so important for people to throw logic in here. We don't know. This is information we don't know. But guess who does? Law enforcement. Law enforcement has this information and has had it since jump. They're very aware. They're very, very aware. But so was the PI.
A friend of mine said they had talked to Seth and he was looking for somebody, a PI to hire, and he had referred me. So I called Seth and here we are. That was about 2 weeks ago. And yes, law enforcement was standoffish at first with me. And I think that's just because, they had some, Seth can be hard to deal with because he's going through a lot right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of trauma. So what can you tell us so far about your investigation? What have you learned? What were the circumstances of the home, of his mother, of his stepdad, the thud that they heard?
Well, I can tell you that from my investigation, I believe that this is a domino effect of events. I believe that we have to go all the way back to probably December and January are going to be key months. There are a lot of events. There was a lot of turmoil surrounding Sebastian. We know that Chris Proudfoot was in the middle of a custody battle with his ex-wife. We know that the daughter did visit over Christmas break. We know that Sebastian was with Seth during that time. We know that that there was a DCS referral in, I believe, February to the Stafford home. That call was likely determined to be unfounded because the
Was likely to be determined unfounded
case was closed and
because the case was closed. Let me rewind that one more time. We don't even know how many there actually are. We're not involved in this. We are not law enforcement. This is information to do with the minor child. But this was the PI that was working on behalf of Seth Rogers at this point. We know that a CPS report was opened when Sebastian went missing. That very easily is likely to be the one that they are talking about that is still open. I'm going to play this again.
February to the Stafford home.
Let me go back.
That there was a DCS referral in, I believe, February to the Stafford home. That call was likely determined to be unfounded because the case was closed and that file is restricted at this time. I know Seth has tried to find out more about that call and he has been unsuccessful in doing so. But I've also recently learned that there may have been some talk about Chris leaving Katie. And I feel,
and that was all rumors,
that probably had something to do with Sebastian. So there may have been some trouble in paradise. To me, these are all things that need to be considered. Could these things have led up to maybe Sebastian just feeling?
Oh, I can understand his anger too, Lisa. If there are 5, if there are actually 5, we don't know that. We don't know for sure how many they were. We don't know if he was notified. We don't know what they involved. We don't know if there's what the narrative is. We don't know why they were called. We have no idea. So to even make assumptions on what these are or what they contain is completely outlandish.
A certain kind of way,
Right.
and leaving, if he overheard a conversation between Chris and Katie where Chris is saying he can't deal with it anymore, he's out, whatever, that
Right.
could have been motivation for Sebastian to just leave.
Seth, I want to bring you back into the conversation. Was Sebastian safe at his mother's home?
I've heard some things. I have mixed feelings about that.
Were you addressing it with your former wife?
Information that has been brought to my attention has been information received since Sebastian has left.
And
Since Sebastian has left.
morning after he left, what happened in the home? Can you answer that?
I know that I received a phone call on my cell phone that I didn't get until I got off of work. Everything else would be law enforcement or speaking to Chris Proudfoot to figure out what happened.
And there you have it on that. Let's go back to this. So we know that the PI states that one of the reports that are so-called being addressed was likely to be unfounded and closed. We know that one was opened when he went missing. We don't even know if the other 3 just contained his information because of another situation. We have no indication what actually exists in these records, nor should we.
No. is the main-
Predominantly, right?
predominantly, although Katie seems to be named possibly in a couple of these, but more as
Twist, I've missed you.
Allowing.
but the step right, allowing the situation to occur. So they were having trouble with Sebastian, I guess, at some point, and then around November of 2023, they start having discussions about putting Sebastian in a behavioral school, one locally in Gallatin called Bledsoe Youth Academy. Seth does some research on it. It turns out they've had a lot of, I guess, children pass away under their care, and so he didn't want to approve that. He reached out to a lady named Tara, who works with this kind of thing. Found 4 other really good schools around the country. Those cost.
And I once again remind you, no charges have been filed on any parent, including Seth Rogers, Seth, Chris, or Katie, for abuse, neglect, or anything of the sort at this point in time. There's that.
Between $5,000 to $10,000 per month. So of course that's $60,000 to $120,000 a year. So that was not feasible, for the budget at that point, I guess. And then then he gets approved, I guess, sometime in that winter before he went missing, to get into the Clarksville school. So then the plan becomes for Sebastian to go live with Seth in May, which we all knew this part of it, that was the arrangement. But then another CPS report comes in January, and we still don't know what's in that report. And neither does Seth, neither does Tony. No one knows because it's an open investigation. And then Sebastian goes missing in February. So there's your timeline. Tony, am I misspeaking on any of that you could tell?
No, and when I spoke to Mr. Rogers, he said that the ongoing one was either at the end of January 24 or the very beginning of February, within that few days there.
And we just heard the PI that was working on behalf of Seth Rogers speak on that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
So I assume police have seen it, correct? They'd be able to see it. Investigators.
I would venture to say that they know everything that I'm sharing with you.
Sure. And they probably, even the open.
Of course they do. Of course they did within hours to days of him going missing. Y'all, law enforcement wants to find this child.
One. That wouldn't be off limits for them. They'd be able
No.
to subpoena that, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's, it's, people are so, I know you can't see the chat because you're driving. People are just really devastated and heartbroken. They're angry at CPS. That's essentially, that's what everyone's kind of saying. It's jaw dropping.
Yeah, that's their response. for sure.
Unfortunately, we knew some little bits and parts of this, but it does kind of make sense. The timeline starts to make some sense, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had a conversation offline with you and Mrs. E.
I don't know how the timeline is making any sense. They obviously had a child that they had been trying to figure out solutions for that was suffering from some behaviors. We don't know the extent of it. None of our business. They were trying to figure out solutions. They were talking, they were discussing things as parents do, co-parenting for the best of what they are capable of doing. It wasn't sunshine and roses. I don't know what anybody's expectation is going to be. It is what it is. And unfortunately, Sebastian is missing. And none of this is information that the public needed to know. And all they did was say, yes, there's emails about the 3 of them, but this finger pointing back and forth bullshit of, oh, but they were doing this or they were doing that or he was doing this is irrelevant. Sebastian is missing, and sounds like everybody was struggling to find the best solutions at hand. But they took this opportunity to release all of this, and what for? Exactly what for? Just like what Clue and Stephen Crabtree did. What for? Why? Why even do this? Why? If you're not going to be clear and to the point of why you were bringing this out publicly and exactly what the purpose is, then why? It's fucking ridiculous.
Regarding the John Benet Ramsey miniseries that my wife and I watched,
Yes.
and there was an older, they called him the Sherlock Holmes of these types of cases. I think his first name was Luke. But, he made a statement when he was talking about the case that so many times people make these cases more difficult than what they are. And I looked at Dana and I said,
Really? You think? You think? Isn't it ironic hearing that from
boy, that one hits home. And, you know, you start to get to the point where, you know, 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 = 8.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if
That a child could have walked out. What happened to the law enforcement stated that there's no evidence of him ever leaving the home, Tony?
I mean, this is where they should be looking. I mean, this is the first place they need to be looking is right here. If you're ignoring all of this, then you're not, you know, you're not.
You really think law enforcement is ignoring all of this? You really think they haven't sat with all of these parents and gone over all of this and had it thoroughly discussed? Come on now.
It's willful ignorance or you're
Wow.
incompetent, and I can't imagine that it's either. I'm sure they are looking at all of this. You
Yeah.
know me. I've got the rare opinion or the minority opinion that that law enforcement, this is not a big corruption cover-up issue. I've always believed that they are doing a real investigation. It's just a
Pam, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. 2 + 2 + 2 = 6, though. Okay, that's right. Jennifer, I don't either. I don't understand all the games. I don't. And the side situation, how is any of this helping Sebastian? Clue and Stephen Crabtree, in my opinion, were negligent in the way that they released this information. 100%. I'm going to say it over and over again. The way they released this discussion, this circle talk, all of this shit just opened up the door for more bullshit and more salacious information. And it is what it is. They absolutely should have been transparent of why they were discussing this. Stop playing the games. But hey, what do I know? I'm just an asshole with a YouTube channel and a lot of opinions.
difficult one, and that it's painstaking and it's piece by piece.
They're being careful.
They're being cautious and careful.
And
That's
you
been
know-
my belief, and I think they've got to be looking here. I don't know how they're
Well,
not.
and you know, Mr. E, that I've always shared that opinion with you.
Right.
um,
Yes, you said
Yes, he
that.
has.
And so, you know, what I like to look at a lot of different things and say, well,
I like to look at a lot of different things. Well, let's look at what law enforcement stated. Law enforcement stated that all the parents' stories have been vetted and they have been cooperative. That's what law enforcement has told us, that their stories have been vetted and they have been cooperative. And how much further do we need to go? We have no indication that anything nefarious has happened or any of the parents are involved in Sebastian's disappearance. If we are looking at the facts, that's where we are at. We have a missing child and awareness needing to be brought to a missing child. Pointing fingers, blaming, doing all of this, concocting all these crazy stories. How is that helping bring Sebastian home? It's not. It's truly not.
well, what if this happened? What if that happened? I like to use a lot of analogies, but you know, if
Okie, thank you for being a member.
if you and Mrs. E had 4 or 5 domestic violence situations at your home, and they came out, and every time they came out, you were the bad guy. You were doing things that you shouldn't be doing. She was claiming that she was scared. You did this, you did that 4 or 5 times over a couple years.
Alabama mama, I understand what you were saying. But obviously they were told what the purpose of having this discussion was, what they were looking to have people understand. So to circle around and act like they didn't know or didn't have permission or what the purpose of even having this discussion was led to more chaos and confusion and more narratives being painted. So even with permission as a creator, you have the duty to sit and say, is this going to be helpful or harmful? I guess if you're in it for the clicks and the views, you just go, hey, I don't give a fuck. Let's just have this hypothetical discussion out here though, right?
And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and Mrs. E is missing. I mean, where would the world be looking?
Sure. Of course. You'd have to check me out first. I mean, you would have to expect it. You'd have to clear me first. If they didn't, they would not be doing their job. So, you know, and it doesn't mean that there's any guilt necessarily with these people, but it definitely needs to be the first place they're looking.
Alabama mama, hold on. Before we get too ahead of the game here of, oh, Clue will take the fall. Clue was one of the first creators in the neighborhood keeping going by their house and videotaping their house. Clue was one of the first creators to hop on panels accusing them of heinous things without any proof. Clue was one of the first creators to go buddy up to Seth and go out there searching with Seth and make allegations against the Proudfoots. So while you say that she might fall on the sword for them, she also reached out to Nick the Hat and said how close she was to the family, things I'm not willing to overlook. So while you want to give her ass pats and think that she's going to fall on the sword for anybody, I just truly don't think so. She's a YouTuber at the end of the day. And there's that. And no, this is not Becky's hate campaign against Clue. I don't hate her. I don't care enough about her to hate her. It is just what it is. Yeah, she did. Penny, yeah. Nick posted those on X.
And until they can clear that, then they don't really need to spend any time looking anywhere else. There's too many red flags. It's got to be where they're looking.
Yeah, one thing that you've never heard me say. Now you've heard Seth say it. You've never heard me.
And by the way, let me say this for everybody out front too. I don't care who the family members are close to at all. That is their choice of whoever they want to sit with, whatever. Just like I have said that Seth chose his team and he is sitting there. The Proudfoots can do the exact same. Sadly, Sebastian's dignity is what I care about. I don't care about grown folks and content creators. I care about the facts and Sebastian's dignity. That's about it.
Them directly of being responsible, but
Sure.
you will hear me say over and over again that I believe that you have to follow the evidence.
Right.
And I don't know what all the evidence is, and neither do you guys, neither does your audience. And I do believe that they are working hard to keep things close to the vest. And I believe that they are following the evidence. I truly believe that.
Well, you should probably tell your team member, Betty, that law enforcement, they might need to have a team meeting after this. Miss Robin agreed. There shouldn't be teams. There's a missing child here, and there's no evidence of foul play that we know of at this point in time. All parents' stories have been vetted and been cooperative. This pointing fingers, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, it's crazy to me because none of it helps find Sebastian. And I'm sure Sebastian wouldn't like seeing any of his parents smeared and drug all over. I don't like most of these people. I don't know them. It's not for me to like these people. They are parents of a missing child who deserve their child to be found. And Sebastian deserves dignity and to be treated like a human being. End of.
I do too. There's actually there's little signs here and there, if you're paying attention to it, that they are doing an active investigation, and that it's not just sitting on a shelf collecting dust. I think that's the case. And yeah, I'm sure they have way more information than we have. We probably only have 5% of what's out there available that investigators have got. I guess you guys knew, but we had no idea that there were 5 CPS reports in 2 years. That's outrageous. It's outrageous in a lot of ways, even if they have nothing to do with Sebastian's disappearance at all. It's outrageous. It's unacceptable.
Well, and we now know, Mr. E, that
Man, these people have never, it's like they live in an alternative universe. It's like they live in a completely different bubble and are so disconnected from reality. If there are 5, that might not, depending on what's going on, which we don't know, it might not be excessive. It might not even be nefarious. We have no clue. Nobody's questioning that Alabama mama. Nobody's questioning if she had permission or not. It's the way it was done. Opened the door for all of this. Again, permission or not.
Thanks to a conversation I had with you guys, because I've had my head out of the YouTube world for a little bit. But
Oh my God, whatever.
Sumner County or the TBI, we now have confirmation that they've reached out to 2 different content creators for either an interview that they've done with one of the parents or some evidence that they talked about and wanted to find out, hey, can I get a clip
One of those creators is Smiley. I'm not sure who supposedly the second one is.
of this? Can I find out where you got that? So they are watching what's going on, which is encouraging to me. And it does give us an indication as to which direction they're leaning, to your point, if you're paying attention.
So I didn't know there were two. I knew about Smiley. I knew they had asked.
No, Lisa, we shouldn't when they're known liars. Tony's been caught in lies. No. I'm sorry if it's about the dignity of a child. No, I don't care about if they pick a spokesperson who's knowingly lying. No. Sorry, no.
Sure. I didn't know that there was a second.
You were okay. I thought you were there when I told him.
Oh, maybe I took away. Okay, so there's at least two. Okay, great. Maybe.
And one of them happened yesterday, by the way.
Right.
Oh, very interesting. That is very interesting.
Misty, we don't and we won't. We don't and we won't. He's even said, Seth has even stated that he can't release this. He's been warned. He got a call. Do you guys not remember that? Do I need to pull that up? On Betty's, he's been warned not to release this information.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, so you're not doing that if you're trying to cover this thing up, you know.
Correct.
You're not doing
Correct.
things like that.
Because the moment you do that, based on the information that you're asking for, you're tipping your hat as to which direction you're leaning.
Yeah, so it's a good sign. It's a very good sign that justice is coming.
If Katie's reasoning for this, let me be honest here. If Katie was thinking, you know what? We were all just trying to do our best. We were all in communication. Okay, I can understand it, but that could have been clearly communicated, very straightforward and very directly, and without all of this bullshit. Lisa, I truly wish they had an actual spokesperson through law enforcement, honestly, or legal representation that was coming out, not YouTubers. That's my own personal thing, because none of these people are professionals. They're truthfully at all. They're not victims advocates in any way, shape, or form, or have the best interest of the victims and their families in play, if I'm being honest here. I wish law enforcement, and maybe they've opted not to. I don't know. But if she wanted that communicated, that should have just been directly communicated instead of all these like him and Han and stuff. I hope that makes sense to people.
It really is. It's slow. Justice is painfully slow. But you know the way these things go is everybody says corruption until the day there's handcuffs, and then it's like then they'll be celebrating the police because there's no warm up to it. You know, there's no they're not going to announce the date that this thing's going to be solved. It's just one day everybody's living their lives, and the next.
Because truthfully, now it just puts them all in the same arena that they're using YouTubers to release information through, and we're all sitting here like, what's the purpose of all of this? It puts them in the same boat as Seth. They're using YouTubers who have problematic history of doing shit that's not trustworthy. Like, it just leads to more games, and that when you're trying to find a minor child is what I would think would want to be avoided. I don't know. But again, I can't imagine having these, like, trying to figure out what's the best thing to do.
Say their homes raided. That's kind of how it goes.
Well, and if we could all put our child in this situation, if we could put ourselves in Seth Rogers' shoes, we're all very familiar with the phrase double jeopardy. And
Of course.
When you start talking
Oh my God, seriously? And then they just lead into this bullshit like this.
about bringing your strongest case,
Again, you just said that you feel law enforcement is doing their job. So let law enforcement do their jobs and go back to law enforcement has said there's no evidence of foul play. Everything's on the table. All the parents' stories have been vetted and the parents have been cooperative, and leave it at that. That's what a spokesperson would be saying if they're following the facts and not trying to sell you a salacious story. That's my opinion.
and getting it right the first time, as much as it pains me to say this, we really don't want them to hurry.
No, I agree. I agree. I am encouraged that they are still gathering evidence, reaching out to creators for interview clips. It's a great sign that they are doing their due diligence. It's just slower than anybody would like. We're an impatient. Everyone's impatient. We all want justice, and of course, more than anything, there are ways you could look at this situation and think maybe he's alive. You know,
Maybe justice isn't needed. Maybe the child decided to walk out. Maybe none of the parents did anything to Sebastian.
it is still a possibility.
Jesus.
And so they also have to be cautious for those reasons about how they go forward too, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I made another.
And they also haven't been named suspects. Parents haven't been cleared, but they also haven't been named suspects because nobody knows where Sebastian is or if there's a crime even that's been committed. And by the way, can anybody riddle me this? How is it that Nick the Hat can name 3 persons of interest? Anybody riddle me that? Nick the Hat of a not so intelligence agency. How can he name 3 persons of interest in a video? Anybody? I'm kind of stumped on that one.
Other comment, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to your show. I made a comment to you guys earlier today that in the one other case I've been involved in, you know, when you're getting over the target as a PI, as a content creator, as a civilian, because you're going to get that phone call from law enforcement that, hey, you've stumbled upon something here and it's not something we want discussed.
Bama trucker, they sure did. We knew that they had him in March, and they probably had him in February. Absolutely, they did. Yeah, if anybody can riddle me that, how that's happening, I would love to hear your input on how Nick is naming persons of interest.
Right.
And in a roundabout way, I believe that these content creators stumbled onto something.
Well, Ellie, let's just play hypothetical. Even if they did reach out to him, do you remember the last time when Smiley talked about law enforcement and said that Katie had an active warrant on her? Anybody remember that shit show? Because that was Smiley too, where she was going through when it was the filings of the RO against Betty, but she was telling everybody that she had an active criminal warrant on her. Does anybody remember that? And remember when she talks about how she called law enforcement? We detailed all that shit. That was pretty interesting. So I can only imagine what the call was like to Smiley. By the way, law enforcement can get a subpoena, and even videos that are deleted off YouTube, they can access. And they can also just click on a channel and like gain access to them. So there's that.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know how law enforcement feels about content creators. And in order for them to reach out and ask for assistance,
Yeah.
CLK, we don't know the answers to that at this point in time.
they had
Can't
to
blame them.
Yeah, they had to have had something that either they wanted kept private or that they wanted to take a better look at.
Right.
So,
Well, I would think I know you.
Up to good. That is possible. They could have reached out and asked questions about it too. Like, what did you like, just to get information? We have no idea. But even if they did, maybe it's just for record keeping purposes of, okay, we've gotten 1,800 calls on this one video. Let's have it for our records, just to, like, we don't know. Everything's being made into something nefarious. It just, yeah, I'm banging my head off the wall. Anybody else?
You're saying you're going to be going soon. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of that information with us. There's so many people invested in this, and just want to discover what the truth is, even if it's painful, like what we've been hearing tonight. That we can't shy away from it. It's the reality, and
we don't know if it's the reality, though. Unfortunately, there's no proof to back up these allegations, and I work on facts and facts alone, and we just are falling short once again. These are words from a national spokesperson of Seth Rogers, not Sebastian. His vested interest is protecting Seth, not Sebastian. I'm concerned about the dignity of the minor child solely.
it gives us a little more clarity on what was going on leading up to his disappearance, which is
And also Katie's safety. I will say that. I think a lot about Katie.
very important. It's maybe the most important part. But I really appreciate you coming and doing this. Do you guys know, have you and Seth talked about the next time you're planning on doing a live? Are you doing one this weekend or waiting a while?
we actually have some things we're going to address, and we will be having a guest on with us, and it will probably be this Friday night.
Oh, great. Okay. Anyways, enough of that. Is there anything else you guys wanted me to show? Anything else you guys wanted me to show? So baseline is here. Obviously, creators were showed the emails, which have been confirmed to be legit by even Tony. But Tony took a spin and decided to throw all this other emotional pull in about supposed reports. What we know is 3 parents were communicating about resources and potential placement for Sebastian because of things he was going through. That's all we need to know. Nothing more. We didn't even need to know that. But it's created a shitstorm of all these allegations and accusations and why it's being done. And nefarious this and nefarious that and pointing fingers here and pointing fingers there. That's it. We know that Seth's PI talked about one of these records, that it was likely to be unfounded and closed. We know that an open investigation through CPS was made when he went missing. There's 2 right off the jump. Is there 5? We have no idea. Law enforcement knows all this evidence, just like law enforcement had the footage from Texas Roadhouse and all of the neighborhood cameras and everything else. They've been working on this from jump. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Aries. Definitely not me. Pretty hate machine. Yeah, thank God nobody's calling him a baby anymore. That was pretty ridiculous. You have 3 parents that were struggling to figure out the best options for their child. Unfortunately, their child is missing, and this just goes to show that there is no perfect victim. There's no perfect circumstances. There is nothing ever going to be perfect, but pointing fingers at any of them is completely off base, because if we're going on the facts don't align with blaming any of them for his disappearance. Law enforcement, again, has stated that there's no evidence of foul play. Everything is on the table. Their parents' stories have been vetted and they've been cooperative. Yeah, Flower Nana. Yeah, Kim, she's part of the team that's just pushing narratives against Chris. And there are so many possibilities outside of what people are thinking for any of these reports, any types of behaviors, anything. There's so much more. We just don't know. But as you heard Seth say in the news, Sebastian walked out. They were all saying the same thing. I believe he found someone to help him run away. Shaggy could be. Could be. Oh, it's not the first day. It's been going. This has been going. This started Saturday night. It's terrible. It's terrible, Mike. The facts have been completely removed from this, and the stories have just been twisted and turned in every which way. And all it is at the end of the day is smearing Sebastian's dignity. Queen Widow, I can't tell you guys what my theory is, honestly. Like, I don't have a theory on this case that's solid. I really genuinely don't. There's so many things that are possible or potential. From him walking out, getting injured in the woods, succumbing to those injuries in the woods, him walking out, self-harming, him walking out, meeting somebody that he had been in communication with. Like, there's so many options outside of the parents for me. I can't even begin to narrow it down for you. I work on facts from law enforcement, and right now it's just way too open-ended. Yeah, Jennifer, that's a big problem too. Yep. If anybody has any other questions or needs a clip of me to pull, something you wanted to see, I am so frustrated with this, because I guess it just shows how many people are so disconnected. CLK, thank you. How so many people are disconnected from this world, of how much of a struggle it is to find resources for kids that are struggling. It is so frustrating. And I'm sure that all of them were beyond frustrated and trying to figure out anything and everything, between the financial situation, insurance not covering it. You watch your kids get worse, or the behaviors get worse, and not have answers and not be able to access resources. And you try to find anything and everything that could benefit them. And like I said, sometimes people do the best thing they possibly can. There's articles, a lot of those boys ranches, where people drop their kids off there and they regret it for the rest of their lives. will regret it the rest of their lives, and they talk about it, and it's heartbreaking because all they were doing was trying to get help. And sometimes people fall prey to the troubled teen industry and unlicensed facilities that are very dangerous. And there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had around teens and suicidal ideation and mental illness, because pediatrics do suffer. There is overdiagnosed and misdiagnosed a lot of times too. But there's a lot of things that people do not understand, and it really, really infuriates me. Yes, absolutely, Mimi, a lot of times, yeah. Yeah, there are facilities that are licensed that are amazing. There's co-occurring facilities because unfortunately, and I'm not saying this about Sebastian in general, but there is teens that struggle with co-occurring disorders such as substance abuse and mental illness, dual diagnosis. There's people that have medical complexities on top of behavioral health issues. There's all sorts of different facilities for different needs and different types. And I can't even imagine being a teen on social media this generation. Truly, I truly can't. Yeah. But if you have a good team, if you have a child that is struggling, get yourself a good team, a good supportive team. Find yourself a support group. It is so necessary for parents on top of the teens. It's a hard situation to navigate, and there's no clear-cut answer a lot of the times. Thank you, Smiles. There's some great and some awfuls. Yeah, pen, that's for sure. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, holy crap. Avi, I am a little bit, it's medication. I've been taking a lot of cold meds, so. Oh, wilderness camps are, oof. Oh, I could do a whole, I think me and Am will do a whole video on some of these homes, wilderness camps. I had friends in high school that went to some of the wilderness camps, and like I said, my own experience, my stepbrother, I remember visiting my stepbrother in boys ranches when I was under the age of 10. And then as I grew up, he's been in and out of prison my entire life. They're not quick fixes for a lot of people. And for some people, they make situations worse. And yeah, she was in one in Utah. Shaggy. Yep. Sure was. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of them. Utah's got a ton of homes. A ton of them. There's some really interesting homes. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people that. Queen Widow, I wish there was no more misinformation. I really wish that people would stop. I really wish, but it seems like this just amps people up and it just continues. So yeah, there's a lot of people that have been in those homes for sure. All right, you guys, I'm gonna head out because my littles will be headed home pretty soon, and I've been on the go since early this morning with IEP meetings, so I'm pretty much tapped out myself. But I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will be back with the next cluster F of whatever. Stay safe out there, you guys, and keep your heads up. See y'all later.